I'm Delia. I am an art consultant with an unpretentious approach. Welcome back to my channel where I'm talking to you about why you should become an art collector and exactly how to do that. Today I wanted to dive right in and talk with you about creating a budget for collecting art. I think that money is the number one thing that people think of when they start thinking about becoming an art collector or buying a piece of art. This is super unfortunate because it is by far the least interesting aspect of art collecting, but I wanted to just address it head on and kind of get it out of the way in this second video. I'm sure we will talk about money many other times on this channel, but I just wanted to really address it here. So I've heard from people who make quite a bit of money, a lot of different reasons and excuses why they can't begin an art collection. And it has led me to believe that we culturally really hold this idea that you need to be super rich in order to buy art, which is just absolutely not true. Behind the camera, I'm looking at a piece of art that I bought for $5. There's a really big range when it comes to purchasing art. Can go from $5 to $500 million and more. I mean, it's really an enormous range. And I think, unfortunately, we have really attached to this image of an art collector as the super, super wealthy, the Beyoncés of the world, these high upper echelon tiers of society as the art collectors. I mean, even the term art collector, I know people who own art and don't call themselves an art collector because it has such a layer of wealth associated with it that doesn't resonate with them. I think this is so unfortunate. Art is really for the people, and it is one of the aims of this YouTube channel to equip you with all of the skills and perspective that you need in order to feel empowered as an art collector. So today I really want to focus on kind of two major budget brackets. It's $2,000 to $5,000 and under $2,000. And I would like to just kind of dive into the logistics within those budgets and talk a little bit about actual art prices, just so that you have a baseline understanding of how much you actually need. And then I would like to talk about art budgeting. So $2,000 to $5,000 is a really wonderful starting place. You can really do quite a bit in that price range. You definitely, if you're not going to hire someone, you definitely need to be a little bit scrappy and have some time on your hands and have a passion for this. But you can find some gorgeous, large originals in that price range from artists who are gaining a little bit of press attention and becoming better known. You can buy a bunch of small originals within that price range. You can do a whole house if you're willing to do a bunch of prints. There's quite a bit of flexibility in that price range. I have found many, many, many pieces under $5,000 easily. They're all over the place. You just need to know where to find them and how to look for the artists that you connect with and learn how to talk to artists about their price points. But it's really remarkably doable. I love that price range because it really allows for a lot of freedom for what the collector wants. If you are looking for a single meaningful piece to make a statement out of your living room, you can do it in that price range. If you have completely blank walls and you need to really fill them with a bunch of prints and originals and small pieces and large pieces, you can do it in that price range. It just gives a lot of flexibility, obviously above that, more flexibility, but you can have quite a bit of range in that budget. And I think I have found time and again that people are pretty surprised by how low that actually is. And I've worked with many clients who have that price point. You can hire people within that price range. You can pay for framing within that price range. It's all pretty doable. Again, you need a little bit of scrappiness and resourcefulness. And then the under 2,000, this is going to be really connecting with local artists is a pretty good way to do it, but you can find originals under $1,000 easily if you just know where to look and how to connect with people. So originals under $1,000, you can get prints for a couple $100. You can get prints for $20. You can get originals for $20. I think you're really, really in the unknown artist world at that point if you're doing originals, but that's okay. especially if you have a connection to them, if you have felt something from the piece that they're creating. It really doesn't matter who that artist is and whether other people are paying attention to them. And you can do prints. You can do prints of pretty well-known artists in that under $2,000 range, which is important to know. And I think prints have a bit of a stigma. It's a bit of an elitist thing, honestly, but we've sort of established that original art is real art and prints aren't, which I think is bullshit. Prints are wonderful. If you connect with the piece and the subject matter, get a print if you can't pay for an original. It's a great way to support a living artist. It's a great way to have a piece of art in your home that you resonate with. Prints are great. So you can do a couple $100s there. If you are really, really on a tight budget, places like Etsy have great original art and prints at a really low price point, places that you can apply a price filter. Again, the artists are typically very, they're on the amateur side of art. That is totally fine. This all kind of brings me to creating an annual budget for art. I think it is really important to have a budget for your art, the same way that you might budget for travel or another large expense. Some people create a different savings account for those things. All you have to do is decide in your annual or monthly budget how much you want to set aside for art each year. And you can do whatever. I mean, it can really be, I just gave you a list of price points. If your price point is $40, then you can set aside a couple bucks a month and get a $40 print by the end of the year. That's great. Just make it a priority to put it into your budget. All that we're doing here is prioritizing how we want to spend our money and choosing to make art one of those priorities. So I encourage everyone to have an art budget. You can obviously roll it over year to year, but just make it a part of your budget if you want art in your home. One last thing to mention here are the hidden costs of art collecting. So framing is really the biggest one. Frames can add anywhere from $40 to a couple $1,000s to your budget. They can be insanely expensive. I don't understand it. I really recommend a real glass frame as opposed to whatever the plastic thing is that covers over them. It just distorts the art in a way that I find really distracting. But if plastic is where you're at, that's fine. I am a big fan of super simple frames. I mean, about as simple as you can get while still being well made. Places like Michael's have really good options at lower price points, but nonetheless, it's a lot of money. And it's important to do your research before you buy a piece of art, just to know how much additional cost there's going to be in framing it. Art installations, I just generally don't recommend in these price ranges that you pay for a professional art installer. It's going to rack your costs up quite a bit, but you certainly can. If you've just spent $5,000 on a piece of art, definitely consider hiring a professional art handler to install it for you, just to ensure the safety of that piece. It's something worth researching. There's plenty of companies who do that. I'm sure anywhere you're at, it's really just a tiny insurance security for your piece. But if you're on the lower end, or you have a general understanding of how walls work, I wouldn't worry about that too much. And then the last component is hiring someone like a consultant. Totally optional. It's really just if you want a bit more of a personalized process throughout this whole thing, if you want a tailored experience of finding art, and if you want a little bit more guidance in making buying decisions, decorating your house, all of that stuff. The cost for consultants ranges pretty considerably. I'll just share mine with you. So depending on the scope of the project, I charge between $500 and $2,000. Just to give you kind of an assessment of that, but it really ranges. So if you're in the $2,000 to $5,000 range, you can certainly hire someone. The amount of money that you have to spend on art is going to shrink a little bit, but on the other hand, you might be finding pieces with more ease, less time, greater personalization, all of those components. So to recap a little bit, you can find incredible art for a few $100s, for a few $1,000s. I generally think that that is a much lower price point than people anticipate when we start talking about buying art and becoming an art collector. It's really important that people can reframe that a little bit. Obviously, we don't read news stories about $1,000 art pieces that sold, but we should be aware that they exist that they are spending, that they are the beginning of an art collection, that they're legitimate pieces of art, that they have value, they're beautiful and worthy of investing in. And I just really want people to acknowledge that your art budget can be way lower than we anticipate. If there's a question that you have that I missed, I would really love to hear from you about it. Transparency and pricing is super important to me, and I want to equip you with whatever information you need in order to make a choice to become an art collector. And I'm happy to talk about money all day long. I think that it should not be the main thing that people think about when they think about art collecting. So send me your questions. Thanks for watching this, and subscribe if you would like to see more videos on why you should become an art collector and exactly how to do it. And next week on this channel, you will see a home tour of a beautiful art collection I cannot wait to show you.